Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to another VN Happy Hour. I'm VN Times editor Rachel Buzzell.
And I'm Vet Times editor James Westgate.
Welcome back, James.
Thanks. I'd like to thank Jack Pye for standing in for me and co-hosting last month. What a pro.
Yes, thank you to Jack. He was an awesome co-host.
And first of all, a little message from our sponsors. This happy hour is brought to you in association with Bought by Many. Bought by Many work with vet nurses and owners to help pets have happy and healthy lives. Join their Many Nurses Club on Facebook to connect with other vet nurses and get a £50 Amazon voucher when you take out a Bought by Many policy. I also like to add, Bought by Many were recently voted Pet Insurance Provider of the Year in the 2021 Moneyfax Consumer Awards and have been nominated in the Vet Trust Awards this year in the Pet Insurance Company's Most Trusted by Vets category. Visit their website at www.boughtbymany.com to find out more about their cover.
Right, so tonight we're going to be delving into the very important topic of brachycephalic breed health, the care of these breeds in practice, and how, as vet nurses, you can educate and support owners.
And we've got Happy Hour alumni Lacey Pitcher back with us tonight. Hi, Lacey.
Evening.
Lacey's passionate about brachy breed health and welfare and believes in building bigger tables rather than bigger walls, and that facilitating conversations may have the greatest impact to help improve things for these breeds.
Yes, and straight after that, Lacey will be joined by another previous Happy Hour guest, Jane Davidson, and we also have Happy Hour newbie, Polly May News, joining us. Hi, you.
Hi, Polly. Jane needs little introduction. You all know Jane, but for those who don't, she's London and Kent-based vet nurse who writes to educate and support vets, vet nurses and pet owners. She's the most popular blogger, stroke vlogger in her industry and runs the award-winning online community #PlanetRVN. As an owner of Pekingese, Jane has experienced firsthand the intense physical and emotional strain of caring for brachycephalic breeds.
And Polly is a consultant at Animal Trust. She is a brachycephalic breed advocate and believes that education by nurse clinics and having a positive conversation is the best way to work together to bring healthy brachycephalic breeds back. She also runs the Brachy Nurse page on Instagram.
And of course, we've got stacks of prizes to give away this evening with £50 up for grabs in our picture challenge.
Yes, so tonight, with September coming to an end, we're celebrating autumn. So for your chance to win a £50 voucher, we want you to show us what makes you feel happy, warm and cozy on an autumn evening. For me, it's a snuggly blanket, a cat on my lap and a mug of hot chocolate.
But it could be absolutely anything. Candles, fluffy slippers, pets, or even your partner, so your husband or your wife, whoever you want to grab, whoever keeps you warm, whatever keep you warm and happy this autumn. Grab your mobile phones, send us in a picture to happyhour@vbd.co.uk for your chance to win that £50 voucher.
Yep, and we're also going to be naming the winner of this month's Pay It Forward prize and announcing the two winners of the mega popular Top Tips competition.
And on top of that, it wouldn't be Happy Hour without our breakout sessions for you to enjoy. The legendary Jack Pye, Happy Hour All-Star, isn't with us in person this evening because he's competing in a top-level bowls tournament. So good luck, Jack. But he has put together another cracking quiz for us. So keep your eyes open for that.
Yes, good luck to you, Jack. And if you fancy working your body rather than your brain, Laura Griffiths of Hit at Home has put together a great session for you.
But before we get started, don't forget Happy Hour really is all about you guys. So engage in the chat. I know it's buzzing already, but put things in that chat amongst yourselves, and obviously direct message myself, Rachel, Ebony, or any of the panel. They'll get back to you. Also on social media, share anything. #VN Happy Hour.
Right, so we've got lots to cover. So should we dive right in, James?
Yeah, we will. So hi again, Lacey. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me back.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. And we've had tons of questions that sent in by our delegates, as we always do every month. The challenge for us this month, wasn't it, Rachel, was getting those now down to about 10, otherwise we'll overrun.
So
with that in mind, I'm going to come straight in with our first question, which is it fair to stigmatize brachycephalic dogs?
I think rather than ignore the problem, the brachycephalic crisis, because it is a crisis. It's a culmination of several different problems, is bad. There's no two ways about it. I am a brachycephalic advocate, and I advocate for the multiple breeds, and I'm very passionate about the difference between bulldogs and brachycephalics, not just bulldogs. You mean brachycephalic. But I just think that the crisis we are potentially as a profession making worse by pushing away the patients with the biggest welfare needs and kind of, as I say, building bigger walls and stopping the conversation before it had a chance to get started. So in regards to the problems, they are multifaceted, which is why I'm so excited for this conversation this evening. It's a crisis, and I'm very, very aware of it. And sometimes being an advocate and outwardly putting your head above the parapet, as all the panel this evening have, and saying, actually, we need to do more for brachycephalic breeds, can sometimes bring us under quite a lot of, I think, controversy may be the right word sometimes, because actually we're so passionate about advocating for them. That can be seen as, I believe that brachycephalics are fabulous and the only way forward. Actually, I understand that we have multiple problems and I want to do something constructive, not just say brachycephalics are bad.
So it's an extremely nuanced subject. And you mentioned some of the publicity, and that leads us nicely into our next question, which is much of the publicity surrounding these breeds is negative. Do you think this helps the situation?
I don't. I think we need to point out the huge medical and behavioural implications in several of these breeds and species. Obviously, we quite often will refer mainly to dogs, but it is multiple species. Certainly, I've been approached for my own dog to be used in media campaigns, and she is a better example of a French bulldog. But I also appreciate she's a better example, but to other people she's a French bulldog, and I don't want people to just go out and buy a French bulldog because she's a lovely example without understanding the why. I think we need to be really, really careful about using them in the media, because unless we're explaining the why, just using them in the media could be actually quite dangerous for them and for the future of their breeds.
I mean, we obviously also had that quandary with advertising this event. It's a very difficult line to walk. But next question is, do you think too much concentration is on the negative side? I mean, specifically within the profession, do we think the profession has got that balance right?
I personally don't. I think that the problem has been there for a long time. And a few years ago, as a profession, it's not that the problem wasn't there, but it's getting worse. And it's getting worse for multiple reasons. The popularities of the breeds that we see most commonly, how pugs, French bulldogs had a huge rise in the numbers that were being registered every year. And they become very, very popular very quickly. And we forget that one of the reasons they become popular are their personalities. And yes, I'm biased because she's mine, but the brachycephalics that I've owned and have been part of my family have incredible personalities, and that's infectious, and it does make you smile, and she's quirky and sassy, and I love it. But as a profession, if someone said to me, for example, if you were going to school and someone said, your child, ugly, would you have any respect for them, or would you in an instant have lost all respect and not want to listen to anything they say? So for me, I think that actually as a profession, by trying passionately to fight for the welfare rights of these dogs and to improve things for them, we actually pushed away the very people who were asking us for help, and we pushed them further into forums and bad advice that isn't regulated, in exactly the place that we never wanted them to receive the advice. And then when that happens and they turn away from us, we say, well, they didn't come to us. We could have told them that would happen. We could have said you shouldn't have bred from that dog. We could have said that it's getting worse. And actually, we shut the conversation down. It was actually us. Someone came to us and asked for help and didn't know what they needed. We're educated to try and help the problem, and we actually stopped facilitating it. So for me, I feel that maybe with good intention, we went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that answer, you've kind of answered the next question, which was, what are some of the risks of making owners of brachycephalic breeds feel alienated in general? And that is pushing them off into spaces where perhaps they're not going to get the right advice and guidance.
Yeah, and it's then very easy to say, oh, actually, she's lovely. Why don't you have a litter? Well, actually, if you'd have come to a veterinary professional, we could have said, well, let's look at all of the potential reasons to have a litter. I personally advocate, in whatever breed, whatever species, I really believe that home-reared litters create better behavioural balance, and the way that they're socialised as little ones has a massive impact on the rest of their life, particularly dogs. And had someone come to me, I could have explained that actually the risks associated with whelping. Actually, well, in terms of conformation, her nose is actually very, very short, and we potentially risk exacerbating those problems. So actually, I would recommend that we don't breed from her, but for these reasons, so that people can make an informed decision rather than me just preach that that's bad. I want people to have trust in what I say as a professional and come back to me because they want to, not because they feel they didn't have a choice in a crisis when they turn up at my out of hours clinic with a whelping bitch out of their depth, and then saying, but the person gave me advice and said this would be okay. I now don't know what to do. And then I'm asking them to trust me when actually, as a profession, they've always felt that they came against brick walls every time they've asked for advice. So for me, yeah, I think we've got a long way to go, and I think we just maybe need to rewire and reframe our approach, because the current one is not working.
I mean, this is going to be, I think, a difficult question for you to answer. But should there be more emphasis placed on the positive aspects of owning a brachy dog?
I think that a balanced viewpoint is needed, and there are positive aspects, but I think in doing so, maybe we need to look at, when we look at positive aspects, look at them on a case-by-case basis. So, for example, I'll use Dumpling because she lives with me. She is a very small French bulldog, and we do get approached a lot because she's small. And one of the first things I explain is, actually, she's really fit. She does very, very well because she's kept in a good weight. But actually, I wouldn't recommend seeking out a very small French bulldog because of this. So we go for positives and negatives together. Just all positive or all negative in anything in life is not realistic. There's always going to be pros and cons to everything. And I think giving the two together and a balanced opinion is a more constructive way to help members of the public, rescues, charities, other professionals. All positive just sounds like we're ignoring the problem, and there is a giant problem, so I want to face it. But I think it's important that we actually give credit to some of the breeders out there who are trying to do better. This problem's going to take generations to fix, if at all possible. And if we don't champion the positives and those doing better, then we're not pushing for change either. So yeah, for me, I think the positives are really important, because when we champion the positives, at least it's a conversation. At least it's not someone saying you're doing everything wrong. Because why would anyone then want to work with us? Why would a breeder trying to seek to improve things want to work with us? This has to be a collaboration. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
That's a great answer. It shows how complicated that communication can be in this particular space. I'm going to jump a question and move into one I think fits nicely to your previous answer. But what advice would you give to an owner intent on becoming a breeder of brachy dogs?
I would say, firstly, why? What is your motivation for wanting to breed? When we know someone's motivation, we can work with them. If the motivation is, I adore this breed, maybe you had them when you were little. Maybe you've had King Charles Cavaliers when you were little and you grew up and they were the most beautiful temperament. And over the years, the last 10, 20 years, you have sat back and watched as the breed you adored, that you have fond childhood memories of, has been destroyed. Well, their faces are getting shorter, their medical problems are mounting, and the breed that you love no longer look like they did when you remember them. If that is someone's reason, that is a good intention. And then perhaps by helping shape what that looks like, we can do more to have a positive impact. So we can help someone with all the right and correct health testing preemptively. We can ensure that the bitch, for example, has a behavioural assessment. And then when all of that information is gathered together as a team, we can work with that pet carer to decide whether that bitch is going to be suitable and if it's in her interests. Having a litter is a really big thing, but if we just say that's a bad idea, we didn't help anybody. We didn't have a conversation, and then that person who came with good intention asking for help will go and ask someone else who may not give a balanced view, who may not be constructive, and actually someone with good intentions might be lost when actually they're exactly what we need to improve things. They are the person we need to make the difference.
Right, we're going to be running out of time. I've got 3 questions left, so we're going to try and squeeze these in. I want to have a frank and open chat with potential owners of a brachy breed about what they might face in the future. Where should I start?
Come with an open mind to have the conversation. If you're passionately just anti-brachy, then we need to learn as well, because there are good examples and bad examples in every breed. And as many of us know, when I was little, my nan had German Shepherds, and now it breaks my heart to see sloping backs and really, really bad problems. And they do have their own issues, absolutely. And that doesn't mean that that's any less important. But we can do so much to shape the future of the dogs we see. By having the conversations, we stand to make a massive, massive welfare increase. We can really shape how these dogs do. And our code of conduct is surrounding improving welfare, and nurses are so well placed for these conversations, because quite often people will come not feeling anxious, not feeling judged, and actually we have done a really, really good job as a nurse if someone can come into our consult room and openly say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do the best I can. That's a really good starting point. And as nurses, if that's something you're passionate about and you want to improve welfare, just saying no doesn't make change. Saying, how can I help? Have you thought about this? That's a conversation. That's going to be much more helpful. And together, that could shape a much better future. And certainly in our careers, we could see things improve. It's going to take time, but we could see improvements.
In 30 seconds for this one, what are the best resources out there for me as a VN to advise owners of a brachy to look at?
The Cambridge University projects are phenomenal. They make really good resources for pet carers to understand the differences, and the images are brilliant. They've got some fab resources, and that would be my first place to try. It's also very helpful to have someone that's not your practice branded stuff, because as an impartial, regulated provider, that then builds trust between yourself and the person that's come to you for help. It's not your practice's information. This is regulated information from a third party.
Excellent. I'm sure if anyone DMs you, Lacey, you'll happily send them any links to any of those resources as well. Yeah. I think something's just gone on there as well. Thanks for that, Katie. But final question, it kind of links back to the question before about the conversation and how it's going to be a long journey, but we need to begin the conversation. We can affect change. And I think that ties in nicely with this question is, do you think we'll still be having the same debates around brachycephalic dogs in 20 years time? Or do you think some of the negative publicity around these breeds will ultimately lead to their disappearance?
I think we'll still have this conversation in 20 years time. And the reason I think we will is because we should still be improving. If we stop having the conversations, then what are we doing to push further? Because there's always room for more improvement, and there's always room to work harder to serve ourselves and the patients and pet carers that our code of conduct surrounds. So we need to keep having these conversations. And yes, in 20 years, we still will. I'm not oblivious or under any illusion that this is not going to be hard. I just think so far this is not working and we need a different approach.
Fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for in this slot. That was absolutely brilliant, Lacey. Pitch perfect, if you excuse the pun. But brilliant. Well, you'll be joining us for our panel chat in a second with Jane and Polly. We're all looking forward to that. Again, we've had tons of questions come in for that, but we've got a little poll now for everyone to get stuck into from our sponsors, Bought by Many. Shouldn't take too long. We'll just getting that up on screen now. So are you confident speaking to owners of brachycephalic breeds about their health issues? You'll want to vote now. We won't leave it open for too long, but if you want to just click your buttons, and we'll see what sort of figures we get back from that.
And if for any reason you cannot vote, maybe you're on a phone or your Zoom isn't updated, then please do let us know in the chat. So question 1, are you confident speaking to owners of brachycephalic breeds about the health issues? Yes, no. Let us know. And question 2, do you agree that brachycephalic breeds are increasing in popularity in the UK? Yes, no, unsure. So if the questions disappeared for you, then again, just put it in the chat. Question 1, yes, no. Question 2, yes, no. Brilliant. Thank you, Chantal. That's great. Question number 3. Would you prefer people to buy a non-brachycephalic breed? Yes, no, unsure. And question number 4. Do you think there should be tighter restrictions for breeding brachycephalic breeds? That's come up in the chat a lot. Yes, no, unsure. And finally, question number 5, do you agree that pet insurance should cover BOAS corrective surgery? Yes, no, unsure.
Okay. Looks like we're going to have to be mining the chat for some of the answers on this, but we're getting a lot of responses coming through. So do you think everyone's getting towards the end of answering that? Obviously, while you are answering it, we make sure you get those challenge pictures into us. As we say, anything that's going to keep you warm and cozy through the autumnal months.
Yeah, getting some lovely pictures popping through to the happy hour inbox, so please keep them coming.
And that's for 50 quid. It'll be the easiest 50 quid you ever had. So, okay, we're going to be winding up the poll very shortly. And thanks for all of you guys out there who've given us your answers. That's all valuable feedback. And very shortly we will be moving into our panel chat. I think we're about to do that now. I've still got Dolly Parton in my head.
Still singing Dolly?
I am. Okay.
Right then, is everyone ready to move into the panel?
Are you ready, panel?
Are you ready, team? Right, I'm going to come to you first, Jane. Are you there?
I'm there. I think I'm
Hello.
unmuted.
So, would you recommend referral for BOAS surgery?
It depends on the clinic that people are in. I'm aware that some first opinion vets are doing a lot of this. What I would say is probably more important is potentially get a second opinion, because what else could you do surgery wise at the same time? Because it's not only BOAS, but particularly Pekingese. Is there a nose roll that's rubbing on the eyes that could also happen around the same time? Are we going to neuter? Is there anything else that we want to do under anaesthetic? So I think referral may not necessarily be essential, but I definitely think a second opinion, potentially at a referral clinic, to see if when you're doing BOAS, is there anything else also that you're going to do? And just consider obviously the financial implications and the travel implications. But I think if people are asking about BOAS and they only want to do referral, rather let them go and do referral than lose them not doing it at all.
Great answer. This one's for you, Polly. First of all, welcome to Happy Hour.
Hello.
A debutant. Another BOAS question as well. Some practices offer BOAS surgery during castrations, etc. Should we do that? Is it normalizing the issue?
I think if you're in a practice that has the ability to offer both, then I don't see why you wouldn't do both at the same time, obviously just to reduce the risk of having a second anaesthetic at a later date as well. And also, if you're having to do BOAS surgery on a patient, they're not a candidate for breeding, so you don't want to then do the BOAS surgery and the client then breed the dog a couple of years down the line, a couple of months down the line. Obviously the issue is when I went into the BOAS research group, they told me that not all dogs that have the BOAS they need more. They need the turbinates lasering in their nose. And I'm pretty sure there's only 2 clinics in the UK that offer that, which is Glasgow and Cambridge. So yeah, whilst you might be able to do BOAS in-house, would it be better not to refer the dog to a referral centre where they can have a CT scan and tackle the problem in one go rather than have repeated surgeries? So I think it just depends on where you are and where you can get to, and the client, obviously, what they can afford as well, if the dog's insured or not.
Great. So it all depends on circumstances. Great answer. Over to you, Rachel.
Okay, right, Lacey, this one's for you. Do you think BOAS should be performed in non-referral veterinary practices?
I, as always, probably controversial. So as a disclaimer, I work in multiple multidisciplinary referral clinics around the country. So for my own dog, I would always choose to do the best that I can. Now, the best that I can for my dogs is referral, because they are well traveled. They don't get stressed traveling. I'm not going to worry about a dog that cannot breathe traveling to a referral centre, stressed and getting there far more compromised than we would have been if we went local. And I have access to those people. I have thought about it ahead of time. I'm well researched and my dogs are insured. So financially, I am able to do that as well. The controversial bit, if a charity practice is willing and it is in their scope of care to do BOAS surgery, bearing in mind, let's just remember that BOAS surgery is a collection of problems, not just one. As Polly's rightly said, it's not just the palate, it is a collection of issues, whether that's just snares, just palate, saccules, and so on. Do I feel that they should have access to charity treatment? If they can have some of the aspects of their BOAS managed at a charity hospital willing and wanting to do surgery to have a massive impact on their welfare and make their life less horrendous, I absolutely think we should, because those dogs will be struggling their entire life otherwise. And while that is charity funds, yes, why should that dog continue to struggle just to exist when we could do something about it if neutering is made a must for that surgery to take place? And I know that isn't something that everyone agrees with. I understand why a charity only has so much money to go round, but that dog, that patient, that being is suffering at that point, and I feel that that suffering should be made less. So for me, it depends on the circumstances. I would choose referral for mine, but that's because I have done a lot of research and I have the forethought of working in a profession that deals with these patients.
Thank you, Lacey.
The $6 million question for you, Jane, is: do you agree with the breeding of brachycephalic animals?
Let's not waste time now.
No. Okay. Do you want to expand on that for a few seconds?
Rescues are full of them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there just is absolutely there is no need for breeding of any dog in this country unless you're talking about a guide dog. Full stop. I absolutely overheard someone the other day going, "I'm getting a litter of a litter," walked behind an 18-month-old golden retriever and could see its hips flapping in the breeze. You know, like, people can't take responsibility for their own pet. They don't know enough about it. It's much more complex to get a good, healthy dog than people realize. And just now, I've had 3 Persians and 3 Pekingese. Every single one of those was not only just a rescue, but actually abandoned, like dumped, like rubbish. And although some of them came from clinics I worked in, half of them came through legitimate rehoming centres. You know, like Ebony was from Dogs Trust, etc. So it's like, it's not that you can't get these dogs. They're there. Like, I know that the local Dogs Trust, to me, they deal with the fake passport puppies at Dover. They are full, and I will say full of exactly the designer breeds that everyone wants. They are full of French bulldogs. Saw one yesterday with a cherry eye, beautiful. Which people then went, "Oh, it's the breed, innit?" And they're like, "Well, it's not breed standard. They're more susceptible to it. It's different." So it's just, they're out there. Absolutely no.
And you're getting a lot of love on the chat there for that answer, Jane. But we'll move on.
Thank you, everyone.
That's you, Rachel.
A lot of agreement with you there, Jane. Right, Polly, do you have tips or advice, as I'm planning to start offering brachycephalic clinics in my practice?
I would say definitely take it back to basics. A lot of the clients that I spoke to were completely unaware of the fact that something that they, you know, being able to only walk a short distance, if that's what their dog can do, they think that's normal for the breed. I think the main thing is to dispel a lot of the common breed myths, and also, for example, like bulldogs being overweight, you know, French being overweight, they think it's normal for them to be overweight because they're a bulldog. That's not true, obviously. So I think the best thing to do is to take it back to basics and just treat them as if that, you know, well, they don't really know much about the breed. Not many clients do research the breed before they buy them. And like Lacey said, the resources from the BOAS group, you've got a NARS scoring chart where I often say to the client, where do you think your dog is on this list compared to the others? They always score them higher than what they are. So I think the best thing is to take it back to the basics and completely dispel any myths that they've got and they believe about their breed.
And staying on the subject of clinics, Lacey, does offering brachycephalic clinics, in your opinion, send out the wrong message and attract the wrong kind of client?
We do weight clinics. We do weight clinics for overweight pets. Why not do brachycephalic clinics for other pets struggling with a different problem? We do diabetic clinics. It's still a medical crisis. And that is how we need to treat things. So I 100% think we need to do preemptive clinics, and I think we need to do and advertise fully across the profession pre-purchase puppy appointments, because most people don't realise that they could come to a nurse and ask for free, and we would happily help and guide them to find whatever breed it is that they want to find, a healthier example of that. And brachycephalics is such a welfare crisis that I think they need their own. I think we need to actually look at them and then, as Polly said, explain, well, actually, it's not that they're low activity. It might be that you actually have a dog that really does need high activity and physically can't do that. That doesn't mean their brain is not needing more. So I think, yes, we need to do them in the same way as we need to for other crises, such as diabetes and weight clinics. We are well placed as nurses to gain that trust, to share our knowledge and to improve things.
Great answer. Over to you, Rachel.
I'm coming over to you, Jane. Should more practices be offering fertility services for brachycephalic breeds? and that's to stop these services going underground.
Yeah, and there's loads of chat on this, and it's a really kind of complicated area because the fertility services that we would offer as a veterinary clinic have a clinical basis. So yes, I'm aware that, God, I think I'm going to vomit slightly saying this. I'm aware that some clinics do artificial insemination, you know, whatever you think on that, and they'll do pregnancy health checks. But the things that a lot of the fertility clinics are selling are like things that you don't actually need. So do you really need an ultrasound to know roughly how many puppies are coming? You actually don't. You know, that kind of thing it's a difficult one. And then that's the reason why these clinics then are difficult to regulate, because they're not, pregnancy isn't a disease, so you're not diagnosing, you're either saying there's puppies there or there's not. They're not even in that way that accurate. I think we all know that you know, there might be puppy, I don't know where they go and hide, but they go and hide somewhere else. And so it's a difficult one to regulate because they're not doing a diagnosis, and they're not necessarily doing a skill that's a regulated skill. The artificial insemination, again, is not a regulated skill. But it's the underground aspect, and it's the creating a community aspect that are really worrying. And they're also feeding a desire. You know, people do, you know, as Lacey said, people do breed these dogs for a number of different reasons. And although some of them are financial, that is still an emotional reason to breed an animal. It's often why they want to know how many puppies there are. And because we get ultrasounded as humans, then the, you know, anthropomorphization, God, I did that well, for this time at night, of our animals is in there, as in, well, if I get an ultrasound to see if my babies are healthy, I would like the same for my dog. And they don't realize that really they're not, it's not a health check, it's I can see 10 heads or something. So it's a really difficult one, because I think the concern is not necessarily that these animals are getting substandard care, it's that they're forming a community that are seeking veterinary advice or borderline around veterinary health advice elsewhere. And also, I mean, we don't have enough, it's a difficult thing, we don't have enough staff to do the actual things that we need to do. And so therefore, if you started offering, you know, welfare ultrasounds for pregnancy, where do we get these extra staff from? So it's, I mean, it's a complete nightmare, because in an ideal world, we would offer all these things because they keep our clients happy. But actually, is there a clinical need to ultrasound a dog during pregnancy if it's well? No, there's not. Artificial insemination, are there health problems associated with animals having that at a non-vet? I'm not aware of some. I think that, yeah, somebody's saying 90% of breeders doing it for financial gain. Oh God, absolutely. They say that they love the dog, but ultimately the pound signs are in their eyes. And that's why also these clinics are offering these services cheap. Someone on my Facebook marketplace here, and God, I hate this woman, comes up, I'm doing a scanning certificate and I want dogs to scan, it's only 20 quid. And it's like, what am I paying 20 quid for? Because you're training, so you might not even be scanning the right bit. But it's a difficult one. It's difficult to regulate because it's out with veterinary control. Are there health problems associated? I don't think so. But is it of any benefit to the animal? No. But people are tapping into a very emotional aspect of breeding dogs, and they're just taking that step away from, you know, because the breeder will probably have some tonic that they can sell. They'll probably know someone, you know, you see people talking about, you know, they'll probably know someone that can help them at the birth and all these kind of things. And it's humanizing a process which, you know, shouldn't need to be humanized.
It's a great
Thank you,
answer,
Jane.
Brilliant stuff. And this one's for you, Polly. How would you begin a conversation with a breeder that you were concerned was breeding too many litters from their brachy dog?
I don't think this is generalized to brackies. I think it's all breeders. Breeding in the UK is really not regulated at all. Obviously, you know, you can be a licensed breeder, but I mean, there's limits to that. So most breeders aren't going to want to license themselves, because I think they're only allowed to have 3 breeding bitches, and then they start having to pay tax on the litters after that. I think it's a difficult conversation to have, because ultimately, if they don't like, if you approach the client and they don't like what you say, they're just going to go and find a different practice. If they're breeding you know, repeatedly, they're not the kind of client that is going to take any notice of what you say. So unfortunately, I think that is a losing battle, but it's just to keep approaching them with the welfare, you know, implications of repeatedly breeding a dog if they're having repeated C-sections. I do think it's just a difficult conversation to have, really, because like I say, if they are repeatedly breeding, they're not the type of clients that are going to listen to you anyway.
Yeah, lots of difficult conversations, I think, around this subject. And it's over to you, Rachel.
Yeah, it's another one for you, Jane. In your opinion, what are the most pressing health issues surrounding brachycephalic breeds, and how can they be resolved?
Okay, so I know you're all going to think I'm mad. This was Holly. This was my second Pekingese. I think you can see her there in her tiara. So Holly's list of surgery. She had her nose roll removed, something we've not kind of talked on tonight, but when you see a brachy, you will start, once you start noticing nose rolls, you'll never stop. So the hair up into the eyes, and that's where they get scarring on their eyes and get eye problems. So she had her nose roll removed. She had 2 dentals. Luckily, she didn't have to lose an eye, but Ebony, my later Pekingese, who was also black, ended up with both eyes being removed because of brachy problems. Joint problems, skin problems, breathing problems, claws. And that's before we get on to potentially any age-related issues. Breathing, clearly, you know, we'd like them to have a normal oxygenation level, is massive. But I think just overall generalized pain is something that we maybe don't look at. And whenever I handle a brachycephalic, I just assume they're in pain at some point. Particularly the small dogs, because if you ever see an x-ray, their joints just don't articulate normally. And certainly with my own dogs, they had severe arthritic changes at a very, very early age. So therefore, when you're doing the nail clip, they're probably screaming because they're divas. I always think my peaks lived off 50% one emotion and just 50% diva. I've got to make a disaster out of this. But they're sore all the time. And they don't weight bear evenly on their claws. They don't walk enough to wear their claws down. Their claws kind of, you know, split to the side, and they've got ridiculous feet. So I think just assume that that dog is in pain. Doesn't matter if it's presented for pain or not. Assume it's in pain, treat it and handle it as such, because you will usually get a much better response from that. And the same goes for, I know we've talked a lot obviously about dogs tonight. I had 3 Persians. They suffer exactly the same. My second Persian, when she was x-rayed for something else, they said, oh, look at the massive lung field changes, and that's because of her brachycephalia. And that's something that isn't really being, you know, you can't really do a BOAS if you've got a 1 millimeter nose. So because we don't talk about BOAS with brachy cats, because physically you would be taking away their whole head, you know, it's still there. They still suffer with the joint problems, although their, you know, their overall sort of makeup is not as extreme. And the same for, you know, brachy guinea pigs and brachy rabbits. Breathing first, but just assume that there is some sort of pain and discomfort going on from itchy skin, sore joints, sore eyes, sore ears, and generally not being able to, you know, breathe properly. So yeah, you know, absolutely. You know, these are all there, and that's where it's difficult to have that discussion with an owner, that you kind of need to pick the one that's obvious for their pet and build their confidence that you can treat that and keep them comfortable, and then kind of drip feed other stuff. I think agreeing with Lacey's comment about, you know, charities doing BOAS. I worked in a charity, we did quite a number of BOAS, and I imagine that's only gone up. If the option is that the pet gets 0 treatment, some treatment is better than nothing. And it's exactly the same that, you know, you might walk in and look at a brachy and go, that is eyes, knees, hips, skin, but, you know, there's 10 problems that I would like to resolve now as a veterinary professional. Actually, this client's quite new to us. I need to focus on what they see as the main problem, build trust, and at subsequent appointments can bring in, oh, do you know what? His hair's missing on the top of these 2 claws. Does he scuff his paw sometimes? They're the little things that we'll pick up on. I saw a dog the other day and I was like, my God, you said you've just walked out for 2 hours and it's got, you know, it's got balding feet where it's knuckling. We'll notice that. But actually, if you started to see somebody, you know, they've come in for a snotty nose or an itchy ear, and then you start going, do you think his spine's ruined? Which is kind of how we are sometimes. you know, you need to just do that. So it's better that you get to that question in a couple of months' time than you kind of frighten them and never see them again. But it's a horrible state of affairs. It's the entire animal. And yet the difficult thing is, yeah, their brain's not affected. And I absolutely agree with Lacey. Oh my God, I love a stubborn standoff with a 5-kilo Pekingese. You know, that just made my day, like just the hilarity of the personality. I've had 3. I would have another one now, except I need a bit of a break from the high maintenance lifestyle. And I think I commented in that in the thing, and that's something I said, Lacey, that whenever anyone would say to me, and I would have my peaks in a buggy so that we could go further, and they got out and got mental stimulus, people would, oh, aren't they cute? And if the person maybe wasn't going to engage, my phrase always was, you know, they're really high maintenance. And it's a bit of a joke, but it's, no, they are, you know, everything about them physically and mentally is very, very high maintenance. Even like the grooming bills for Pekingese would terrify most people. So I think, you know, if people are considering that, you might want to consider, well, you know, well, how much maintenance do you want to do with your pet? My pets had hydrotherapy, acupuncture. I was about to say aromatherapy. I did that at home. I just didn't go to the vets for it. You know, I did canine massage with them. We had ramps everywhere and steps everywhere, and there was a dog buggy, and there was the bag that came out with the buggy. You know, it was like I had a toddler. And if you know, that's I think a way to engage with people on a slightly fun level, but also genuinely, this is what this animal will need to have a comfortable life.
Okay, thank you, Jane. So sorry, but I think we've run out of time.
No.
So sorry.
Well, quickly, we could slot one in, I guess, for all of you. We've got our final question, 30 seconds each. Do you agree with the breeding of brachycephalic animals? Jane?
Can I just say no for 30 seconds and then you can move on?
That'll do. Lacey?
I don't agree we should make it publicly, you know, a positive thing. I do agree that for the breeds to improve, unfortunately, that is only going to happen with generations bred better. So yes, in a more controlled and helped way.
And last word up for you, Polly.
Can I just say I agree with Lacey?
We all do, but
I'm just such a hard line. No sex for dogs. No.
Well, I mean, guys, can I just thank you? That was an amazing panel. It's just, yeah, really, really good stuff. I'm sure you'd agree, Rachel.
Yeah, there's just so much to consider with these breeds, isn't there? So much.
Okay, right now we are to our choice sessions. With the quiz with
I'll mute myself.
Virtual Jack, and I believe Katie and Eb's going to take over. Just make sure everyone goes to their pre-selected rooms.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, James, and well done, panel. Very, very good discussion there. So everybody that wants Jack Pie's quiz are going to stay here with me. I'm going to share that in just a second. Everybody that would like to go and do some HIIT workouts with Laura, you will be going with Ebony to the breakout room that we're automatically going to send you to. We have made it that you can choose which room you'd like to go to. So if for any reason you spot that you're in the wrong room or you'd like to change your mind, if you head to the breakout room button at the bottom, click that and select the Fitness with Laura room, you should be able to move yourselves around as well. So I'm going to open those rooms now. And you should all magically head off for the ones that have chosen to be in there, and you will automatically come back when we close those. So please don't worry about having to leave the breakout room. So happy working out. And those of you staying for the quiz, let's get going. Everybody should be heading over there now. And I will just get our quiz with Jack sorted. 1 second.
As we explained earlier, obviously Jack can't be with us in person tonight, but we do have a mini Jack, don't we, asking questions? So
we sure do.
How that works, and
here we go.
Caps on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to VN Happy Hour quiz. This is the 9th VN Happy Hour. Thank you ever so much for joining this evening. I'm very sorry that I can't be with you. I'm playing in the bowls competition final this evening. Gutted I can't be here live, but I'm pre-recording this for you, so it might be a bit weird in terms of how it flows, but I hope it all goes really well. So we'll go through the questions, and I'm sure Ebony or Katie or Rachel, whoever is on this evening, one of our wonderful tech people, can rewind it if you need any questions repeating. So again, get your thinking caps on, and good luck. So question 1, we have our very own Christian Gray, who's actually been doing some ultrasound scanning recently. And the first question is, how many shades of grey are there on an ultrasound? So we've got A, 50, B, 178, C, 256, and D is 309. I'll leave that up to you whether you think that the picture is a clue or not. So, yes. So we've got A, 50, B, 178, C, 256, or D, 309 of how many shades of grey are there on an ultrasound. Moving on to question 2, we've got a picture of a dachshund, not that I'm biased at all, and this question is, which celebrity owns this particular dog? So we've got A, Simon Cowell, B, David Williams, C, Ant McPartlin, or D, Declan Donnelly. Very cute dachshund, I may have to say. So we've got A, Simon Cowell, B, David Williams, C, Ant McPartlin, or D, Declan Donnelly. And we will move on to question 3. And this is approximately how many RVNs are currently on the register. So we've got A, 10,000 RVNs, B, 13,500 RVNs, C, 17,500, or D, 20,000. Sure, it's increased over the years. So moving on swiftly to question 4. Which of these animals works for the US Navy? There are other animals, I will just point out, that work for the US Navy, but out of these ones, which ones work for the US Navy? So we've got sharks, dolphins, penguins, or octopus. Excuse that octopus is highlighted as A, that is in fact D. So also the picture might be a giveaway, might not be. I'll let you decide. And we've also got a bit of a chat bar bonanza as well this week. So if you could be an animal, what would you be and what job would you do as that animal? So we'll give you a little while to decide in the chat box of what you would be. Just a bit of fun. So pop an animal in there and decide what job you'd do if you were that animal. And this just makes me think of the scene from Madagascar where the penguins take over the boat. So
I think I'd be a cat.
And we will move on shortly. I'll just give everyone a bit more time to pop their animals in the chat box. So we'll move on to question 5. So question 5, we have a close-up of an eye of an animal. So I want you to write down what animal you think this could be. I haven't given you any options for this one because I think it might have been quite easy if you had options, and I don't like making the quiz too easy for you. So that's that one. We'll give you a little bit more time just to have a little look at that and see what you think it could be. So name the animal from a close-up of the picture of its eye. A little while longer. Okay. And moving on to question 6 is, how many species are there on planet Earth? So answer A is 8.7 million. We've got B, which is 15.4 million. C, 50.3 million, or D, 64.4 million. Quite a lot of species, from everything from humans to ants to bees. So we'll just go over that question again, which is how many species are there on planet Earth? 8.7 million, 15.4 million, 50.3 million, or 64.4 million? And question 7 is solve the riddle. So it's you buy a rabbit, it can mate once every month and give birth to 7 babies per litter. How many rabbits do you have after 12 months? And there's the rabbit doing this little binky on the side as well. So we just need a number for the answer. You don't have to explain it. So you buy a rabbit, it can mate once every month and give birth to 7 babies per litter. How many rabbits do you have after 12 months? I'll give you a little bit longer for this one, just to try and figure out the answer to it. Okay, so we will move on to question 8, which is which country is this particular species of tortoise from? So we've got A, Guatemala, B, Madagascar, C, the Galapagos Islands, or D, Mauritius. And if anyone has been lucky enough to go to any of them, I am very, very jealous. The Galapagos Islands is definitely on my bucket list for sure. So we will move on to question 9. Question 9 is how old was the oldest reliably reported dog? There's lots out there that have been reported for God knows how many years. So we've got A of 24 years 3 months, B 27 years and 8 months old, C 29 years and 5 months old, or D 30 years and 1 month old. I don't think I would want a dog that old, in all honesty. I'd love it if my dog did live that long, but I'd want it how he was now. Okay, so question 10 is what does BOAS stand for specifically in our brachycephalic breeds? Something that we come across in clinical practice and hear a lot about in a lot of articles as well. So we will move on to question 11. One that I'm sure Jane will know on this panel today. Which country does the Pekingese originate from? So we've got China, B, Japan, C, Korea, or D, Thailand. So that's which country does the Pekingese originate from? A, China, B, Japan, C, Korea, or D, Thailand. That would have been a historical photo of the Pekingese, I'm sure, ages ago. So question 12, we have a Sphinx cat. And I want you to answer which country did the Sphinx cat originate from? We've got A, Peru, B, Egypt, C, Argentina, or D, Canada. One of my favourite cats to come in terms of ultrasound scanning because I haven't got to clip any fur off them. So they're very easy. So which country did the Sphinx cat originate from? A, Peru, B, Egypt, C, Argentina, or D, Canada? So, and we'll move on to question 13. Which is, which animal escaped a zoo in Aberdeen this week? It was in the news. We have A, red squirrel, B, a wallaby, C, a sloth, or D, a red panda. Red panda's one of my favourites, they're very cute. So which animal escaped a zoo in Aberdeen in Scotland this week? A red squirrel, B, a wallaby, C, a sloth, or D, a red panda?
Just a quick reminder for everyone, email your answers in to happyhour@vbd.co.uk quickly before Jack starts.
So when we get through these.
Oh, hang on 1 second. Sorry, James, I paused.
No,
Jack,
that's
how are
fine.
you?
That's fine. I just wanted, because we're getting a lot of answers in the chat box, which is great. But if you all email your answers in, so collate your answers, send them to happyhour@vbd.co.uk, and we'll be picking a winner, announcing the winner probably early next week, so we can crack on now.
Super. Let's go back to question 14, mainly because I'd like to see Jack pronounce this word in the question.
I'm not pronouncing this word either. I can pronounce the hippopotamonstroso-equipid aliophoba word, but I can't pronounce the one that's on the left, which is what I want you to answer. So, what is a stratiosphecomiodes? Is it a fly, an ant, a cow, or a bee? So either of them, I don't know how you get that many letters after a three-letter word. It blows my mind. So yeah, we've got A, fly, B, ant, C, cow, or D, bee. That's question 14, and we'll move on to question 15. So when we get through these, there should be a bit of time to go through and recap them if there's any that you've missed. Question 15 is a true or false, and that is, do sea otters have favourite rocks that they use to crack open their food? So do they have favourite rocks that they use to crack open their food? This one is looking very cute and smug, holding his little rock in the sea. So, moving on to question 16. So we're on to question 16 now. I apologise if it's gone a bit jumpy. I had a bit of a problem when I was pre-recording it. So yeah, this one is probably one that we're all very familiar with in terms of how many households we see with pets. So what percentage of households have pets in the UK? So we've got A, 32%, B, 38%, C, 44%, or D, 56%. So what percentage of households in the UK have pets? A, 32%, B, 38%, C, 44%, or D, 56%. And we'll move on to question 17. So question 17 is, who has just taken over as BVA president? So it's a recent change of office. So it'll test who's been keeping up with the veterinary knowledge and the news currently. So we've got A, Daniela dos Santos, B, Justine Shotton, C, James Russell, or D, Robin Hargreaves. So we've got, again, A, Daniela dos Santos, B, Justine Shotton, C, James Russell, or D, Robin Hargreaves. So we will move over to question 18. Question 18 is, what is the national animal of Singapore? So I've got A, the leopard, B, a dragon.
I was going to mention that. Well, hopefully we'll have Jack with us next time round to do the quiz. But now we've got to rattle through some challenge winners. I know you've been busy behind the scenes, Rachel. So we have a winner, I think, perhaps for our challenge.
The inbox went crazy. So many fantastic pictures. I think we're going to have a few of them that have come in, popping up on the screen shortly.
They've been very warming.
There we go. They do look very warming.
They're so sweet. I do also like the dog bed with the, I think it's hot chocolate and cream as well. But yes, we can only have one winner, and our winner tonight is, drum roll, and there we go. It's Natalia Knowles with her picture. It just sums up cozy for me. Log fire, kitty cat, dog, just cute. Well done, Natalia.
Can't say fairer than that. Now we've got our 2 top tip winners. We have loads of these in every month. It amazes us both that we always get such a good response to this particular section. Once again, it was really difficult for us, our panel, to pick the winners, but there have to be 2. The first winner is use cooling mats routinely in kennels for brachy breeds to help them remain cool, and that's coming from Jackie Morgans. And our other winner is save needle caps to use as an alternative to cat core, reduces the amount of plastic being used, and that's coming from Kaylee Harris. So congratulations to you, Jackie, and to you, Kaylee. Now over to you for the Pay It Forward nominations.
Yeah, Pay It Forward time again. It's such a joy to go through these, and again, thank you to Lacey for letting us use this idea. Some of the nominations are there on screen. They're again just all lovely, and our winner this month is SVN Grace Bridges, and she was nominated by Virginia Graves, who said that Grace is wonderful, caring and adaptable. She adapted to her role during COVID, took on additional challenges and remained calm during some challenging circumstances. So I think that's it's incredible. Well done, Grace.
Yeah, we'll be getting something wonderful. Our marketing team will be winging something wonderful over to you, Grace. Well, that's all, folks, pretty much. And then to remind you all, we will be back where our theme will be another big one, the future of veterinary nursing. That's on the 28th of October, 7 p.m. So put that in your diaries. It just remains for me to thank our absolutely amazing panel, Polly, Jane and Lacey. I mean, that was terrific tonight. Our tech guys, Katie Ford and Ebony Escalona, superb once again. And obviously like to thank our sponsors, Bought by Many. And thank you all for coming, and see you next time. I think we're going to hang around just to wind down briefly, but thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.